night my father was killed, I worked for Steak and Shake. I was about 18 years old at the time. And he would usually pick me up from work, drop me off at the house, go pick my mother up. And he would pick her up, drop her off, and then grab me and we would shoot out. And on this particular night, man, he said, hey, you gonna ride with me tonight? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna ride with you. And so he leaves to go pick my mother up, but while he gone, my cousin Jay calls me and he like, hey man, you wanna go to a club? All right, I'm gonna see if I can get this car. And so, you know, he said, I'm gonna hit you back. And so by the time my father comes back, he called me out the room, and I still remember what he had on when I stepped out the room. He had on some Stonewashed jeans, you know what I'm saying? It's back in the 90s, man, 93. Had on some Stonewashed jeans and a red turtleneck. And, you know, he said, you gonna ride with me? And I said, nah, I'm gonna ride with Jay out to this club. We're gonna go hang out tonight. He was like, that's cool, just hit me up if you change your mind. And so he leaves, and probably a couple hours later, Jay calls me and he like, man, I can't get the car. And he said, so, you know, we probably ain't gonna be able to go to the club tonight. So I was like, man, I said, okay, that's cool. I said, I'm just gonna call Sam and ride with him tonight. And so I hung up, paged Sam, and I hit him on his pager, man. Usually he always calls me back, and on this particular night he didn't call back. And so I knew something was wrong. I just knew in my heart that like something was wrong. Like I just couldn't go to sleep. And so, you know, I shared it with my mother, and then, you know, all of a sudden she became concerned. I was like, you know, paging, and you know, put your code in, whatever your code is, you know, that you put in when you know, you paging. And he didn't call none of us back. And so I stayed up literally that whole night. My mother stayed up, and my nephew Calvin, he stayed up too. At 9 a.m. in the morning, the detectives from Indianapolis knocked on our door and asked if Sam lived there. And man, I automatically, you know, knew something was going on. And when my mother heard detectives, she lost it, you know, and they said they found him out west in an alley on Concord, shot 6 times in the back of the head. Amen. And they believed it was probably with his own gun. And said that he had been robbed. They could tell it was a robbery. And my mother said they couldn't have got no more than $50 because that's all he had when he left. Man, Satan played with me for years after that. Made me think that, you know, it was my fault because I should have been there. And I felt like I let him down, and I, you know, and they just, the guilt hit me, and I was just, you know, faced with bitterness. And then, you know, man, one day I was listening to a guy minister, and he said, you know, the reason, you know, bad things like that happen, it's not because, you know, God is trying to use that to get to you, although he will, but he didn't do that. It's a such thing as sin in the world. And I know a lot of folks, man, who deal with that, and they deal with the guilt because they felt like they wasn't there and they should have been. And you know, at that point in time, that was me. That was my story. I felt like I should have been there, and I let him down, and I wasn't there for him. You know? And you know, ain't no telling. Most people say, well, it probably been 2 dead people there instead of 1. You know, who knows? I don't know. But you know, I know that the guilt from that and me not being there messed with me for a long time, and it wasn't until I heard that message that I literally got free. And so I just want to share this with somebody, man. You might feel like you should have been there for somebody, and you let them down. Truth is, there's such thing as sin in the world. This is why God calls us out, so we can be those lights, and we can make that difference, and we can be the difference in our own communities, wherever we at, wherever God calls us out at. And so I just encourage you, man, to, you know, if you feel like, hey, I should have been there, it's not too late. There's still other people out here, man, who are hurting and need to hear your voice and need to hear your message. And you know, man, there are still people out here who are committing crimes that need to hear the gospel so they don't commit crimes no more. I often think, and I say, man, if that person had a known God, they probably wouldn't have killed my father. They probably wouldn't even been there that night. They probably wouldn't even flagged him down. They probably wouldn't even got in his cab. There's no way they could have knew Jesus. Pulled the trigger. No way. I don't believe it. This is why I share the gospel. Anywhere I go. Prisons, communities, I don't care. Schools. I share the gospel. The good news. We don't gotta live like this.